Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth edition of Imagine This Women's Film Festival. My name is Susie Francois, and I'm one of the co-founders. Right now, we're going to have everyone introduce themselves and also tell us what their role is in the documentary. Who would like to start? Erica?
I'll jump in, Susie.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, sure, go ahead.
All right, hey everyone. My name is Kristen Dickerson, and this is my first documentary, my first film. My husband and I created it. We shot it in 2019, and together we served every role. So I was the photographer, I was the primary editor, color corrector, and also the writer. And our documentary is called Camino De Santiago Faith Walk with Kristen and Peter.
Thank you so much for sharing that. If you could just tell me, as a first-time filmmaker, documentary maker, and you wore many hats, what was that like?
It was one step at a time. Looking at it now, it seems like an overwhelming project. We went into this not knowing it was going to be a documentary. We just knew that we were in a huge transition in our lives, and the Camino is known as a great place to help you transition from one phase to the next. And we knew we had to shoot it. And so initially we just edited every single day of what happened. And then we realized that, hey, if we put all those together and cut the fat out of it, then we might have something that's more easy to watch, and the lessons would be more focused. So seeing it completed now is just feelings of abundant gratitude come.
And beautiful. It was beautifully shot as well. What is your documentary about? If you can just share that with us.
Yeah, the Camino de Santiago is a 500-mile walk across Spain, and it starts in France. It's been walked for roughly 1,000 years. And so we put cameras on our backs, a laptop and a drone, and we walked across it. And during the hundreds of miles, it was a faith walk. Our lives were changed dramatically in various ways. And that change happened thanks to incredible pilgrims, people who were walking alongside us and transition out of topics like depression, marital issues, all these things just popped up as we walked. And so we had to talk about it. And then we put it together after that. So it was really how this 1,000-year-old walk transformed our lives and continues to transform other pilgrims who make that journey every year.
Thank you for sharing that. And who'd like to go next? How about Erica? I know you have to leave at some point. Do you want to jump in and introduce yourself and tell us about your documentary? Oh, maybe we lost her. Oh, she's back.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, hi. I moved out of the family circle to get concentrate more, but it seems my internet connection was unstable upstairs. So is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. If you can introduce yourself and tell us about your documentary.
I'm Erica Pomerantz. I'm a filmmaker from Quebec. And in the past 20 years, I've been doing a lot of working out of West Africa, Mali, and also Quebec, filming a lot with First Nations, Native Canadian communities. And the film After the Coup, Malian Women Speak, was shot in French and local language, Bambara. And it is a documentary I co-directed, co-produced, and shot and edited myself. It's a sort of a self-funded film, even though I've made numerous films for television. This one we did on our own with a Malian director who is my co-director, and she's the sort of on-person camera we see meeting with Malian women. Her name is Fatoumata Coulibaly, and she's a well-known actress and radio and television personality in Mali. And we shot it starting from once there was a coup d'etat in 2011-12 in Mali, and then jihadi forces took over in northern Mali, and we wanted to get Malian women's perspectives on what was happening in their country and what is still happening, because the situation has not really improved. There have been 2 other military coup, and the country is unstable, and there's ethnic strife in the country. So the women's point of view, and they're women from different walks of life, women's rights activists, former women's minister of women's issues, and there are also there's a woman farmer, a peanut farmer, and there's women vendors, wives of military men. We wanted to get a cross section of Malian women, and not just from the more sort of intellectual, outspoken. And it's a feature-length doc, and it's aired in a number of festivals across Africa and in Canada, and this is the first US screening.
Oh, nice. Thank you for sharing that. And what was your experience like wearing more than one hat?
What was the
When you
question
worked on
again?
this? What was your experience like wearing like different hats, working on the documentary?
Since I've been working in Mali, I've done most of my work myself. Like my first film there was called Dabla Excision, about FGM, and I did all the work myself shooting, although I didn't edit it. It was made for Canadian television. So I'm kind of used to working in those kinds of conditions, low light, charging batteries, looking around for people to kind of help here and there with logistics and translation. And having Fatoumata as a partner was really a wonderful experience, because we've wanted to work together for years. And because of the War Measures Act, her broadcast was off the air, and we had enough time to. But we filmed over a number of years to see kind of how the situation evolved.
Thank you for sharing that. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go next.
Hi.
Oh. Hi, my name is Lucy Kennedy. I'm one of 3 co-directors of The Eighth. First of all, I have to just say it's so lovely to see so many women filmmakers. It's just like the solidarity is great.
Yes.
So it's lovely to see you all. And one man, welcome. So our film is about, it was made over the course of 5 years. And it is about the fight for reproductive rights in Ireland. So abortion has always been criminalized in Ireland up until a referendum that we had in 2018. So we followed that campaign, and then interwoven within the film is sort of the historical narrative of the treatment of women in crisis pregnancies in Ireland. So it feels like a very, very poignant moment for this film, given what's happening in the United States as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. What's going on in Texas right now? You know, here you were in Ireland filming that, and now we're dealing with this in the United States.
I know. So it's funny. I mean, we're 3 Irish filmmakers, but we've all lived back and forth between the United States and Ireland. And I never expected to be in this position, although I should have seen it coming in another way, because there's a lot of people who did see it coming, you know, and it's really, I mean, it's really difficult, you know, but I mean, I suppose if there's anything our film shows is that that perseverance in a struggle like this, you know, works over time. And I think that's something I hope people can take from the film.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Oh, I think your sound is off.
Is my sound on now?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. My name's Ili Bare. I'm in Sydney in Australia, and the film I directed and wrote is called The Leadership, and it follows a group of 76 women who are all in STEM, that's science, technology, engineering and maths, on a voyage to Antarctica. And their voyage is actually a leadership voyage. And the hope is that once they are kind of primed to be leaders in their fields, that they can then make meaningful change around the world. But on board the ship, there are a whole lot of questions about leadership. There's a whole other narrative that unfolds, and the leadership on the actual voyage is tested. So it's kind of a film that asks a lot of questions about the nature of leadership, but at the same time it goes into these women's personal stories about their different experiences in STEM, and reveals kind of the sort of systemic problems that they encounter, like sexual harassment, and a whole bunch of other kind of systemic issues like pay. Sorry, it is 4:30 in the 5:30 in the morning. A little early. But yeah, so basically it covers all of these kinds of issues that sort of translate beyond this kind of STEM and go into all kinds of sectors that many women who've seen the film certainly relate to, even if they're not in STEM.
Once you started the process, after you wrote your the documentary, what was the process like in finding your subjects?
Well, basically, we went on board on the ship, and there were 76 women, and there were 76 amazing stories. And so I had to kind of, over the course of the expedition, just work out whose stories we were going to tell. And the way that I did it was to try, and obviously the first and most important thing is that you have willing participants. So, people who want to share their stories, and they have a motivation to share their stories that perhaps goes beyond them, that is about the greater good for the course of this film anyway. And so we ended up kind of settling on different people whose stories sort of amplified different aspects of the problems that women face in STEM. So they're one of our participants had had issues with sexual harassment at work. Another participant had issues with, what we call the maternal wall, kind of not being able to get back in after having kids. And so they all kind of sort of demonstrated a different kind of aspect of some of the barriers that women face.
And a lot of these women, they were from different countries as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a predominantly the voyage was is done with an Australian organisation called Homeward Bound, and this was their first voyage out of 10 annual voyages, because they're aiming to sort of create a big movement of women in science, and this was their first one. So there were, that's also part of our story as well. And there were women there from the States. There were European women, and yeah, one of the other kind of, and certainly a lot of Australian women. And one of the other kinds of issues that is talked about in the film as well is the issue of diversity, and why, because it is a bunch of predominantly white women. So it also is a discussion about the fact that, leadership, that whiteness begets leadership, basically, as well. And it's great to see that since that voyage, the composition of the women who have gone on in Homeward Bound has become vastly, vastly more diverse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Who would like to go next? Ida?
Hi. I'm happy to go next, or is it okay?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
calling in from the Netherlands, and my documentary is called New Light, the Rijksmuseum and Slavery, So I followed the Rijksmuseum is the National Museum of the Netherlands, and it's a very famous museum with all the important artwork of Rembrandt and all the old masters. And they decided to make a first exhibition on colonial slavery, and that was something that was really important in the Netherlands, because up till the last couple of years, the main story of the Dutch was really from a colonial perspective. And I'm born in one of the former colonies of the Netherlands in Suriname, so I thought it was a good idea to see what they were up to. And well, it ended up in an amazing film. Like, I followed them for 2 years, and I could follow close up for like the curators, like how they developed in discovering their own biases and their own colonial thoughts, and the interactions with their Black colleagues, how that all transformed. And so that's why the film is called New Light, the Rijksmuseum and Slavery. And I was the researcher and the director.
Oh, nice. And how was that, being a researcher and director as well?
Well, I always work like that, I have my own company for 15 years. And well, usually you don't have a big budget, to pay a researcher. That's really, well, that would be nice, to just give an assignment and to commission somebody to do the research. But it's also good to do it yourself, because, I always work like this, you never know what you can find. And if you are involved in your own research, then you have all your antennas up there, and you can see it's like, wow, this is something, or this is something, so
That's a good point.
It's it takes a lot of time and energy, as we all know, all of our colleagues. But, at the end of the day, you're happy that you did it. Yeah.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? Afrat and Jill?
Hi. So I'm Afrat. I directed and produced the film An Ordinary Life.
Together, we co-directed it together.
And I also did the research. It was a really long research to find the right characters for this film. I will tell what is the film about. The film follows two amazing women, two leaders, two refugees that escaped from their home, one from Somalia and one from Eritrea. Helen, she arrived to Israel, to Tel Aviv, and Fadumo arrived to Berlin in Germany. And the film tell their stories, their struggle, how they struggle. And
we follow their lives, and we see the challenges both of them have to struggle, differences and the similarities between the countries. And one of the things that drew us to the story, first of all, I'm a man, I know. It's very nice to be here in this forum. I feel privileged and honored to be here. By the way, I shot and edited the film, and we co-directed it, and we're also a married couple. And we have two little girls. I can show you pictures afterwards if you want to. But serious. It's this is like our biggest creation together, besides the movie. But the movie, it follows. We wanted to tell a story of really two powerful women, solidarity of women, and the struggles, and as I told before, and it all starts in this tragic connection between Israel and Germany. So we were curious to check this question, with everything that happens now in the world with refugees and the crisis and everything. We wanted to see each country took it to a different place, different policy. So we wanted to check and to see what's going on there. And as Fat said, there are two amazing women and leaders, and they try to take responsibility not only over their lives, also for their community, which was, yes.
I think we really wanted to tell a story of strong women, like you said, that they take responsibility and they want to change not just their life, but also the life of the women around them. And the research was really long because we were not one of the community, and we knew that if we want to make this movie, we need to know good the world that we are going to document. So we met a lot of Eritrean women in Israel, in Tel Aviv, not far from our house, and we started to volunteer in the community. I worked with the women, with the children, and we met a lot of women until we met Helen. And then we immediately knew that she is the one that we want to tell her story in the film. And when Fadumo and her knew each other and got really strong emotional connection, it was like the story that it was important for us to tell in this film.
And did you get any pushback from the government or people that are anti-immigrant?
A good question. No, it's really interesting. No, the government, the film was funded by the state. Some of the funding. It's a co-production with Germany, and Israel. One of the film funds gave us money, so they support the film. But it was really interesting to see the responses of the people. That we screened it all over Israel, also around the world, and it was. I think what was interesting for us to see the gap between what you think and what you feel. Because once you see these really very powerful, amazing women that are, they have their struggles and they're like everybody. But we have all this prejudice about the different people, and they are, who is the name? What they call them in Israel, some of the people, it's infiltrators. They're not welcome. So to see this gap, this emotional gap, was really interesting, and we hope we made a small difference, especially open some small part in people's hearts.
But unfortunately, there is no difference in the Israeli policy regarding refugees in Israel. Still, the government really not really recognize them as refugees, and they're basically stuck in Israel without a future, and a lot of them find asylum in Canada and in other countries, but our protagonist, Helen, she's still in Israel with her two daughters and her husband.
I can imagine that it's really difficult. Thank you for sharing that. Who'd like to go next? Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Hagen. I'm one of the two co-directors, together with Mariam Nori, who couldn't be here tonight, of The Renegades. We are both based in Germany. And we did our first documentary. I co-directed and shot it. And it deals with one of the most disturbing events in contemporary history, when more than 5,000 young people left Europe to join ISIS in Syria. And we wanted to talk about the questions, how did we lose them, and how do we treat those of them who come back, because this has been like a current discussion now, how we want to deal with them, because we have to take them back as they are, for example, German citizens. And the story is about a young woman who's looking for her baby brother who joined ISIS, and a young man, Oliver, who is convicted as a terrorist and is back in his home country, Austria, and is trying to get integrated again into Western society. And both of them are connected through one fateful photograph. So it's like both of their stories, and then they somehow connect. Yeah.
And how did you find the sister?
So she is a friend of my co-director Mariam, and they were always going out together. And then suddenly she told her the story, and Mariam was like, "Okay, so I have a baby brother too, and he is abroad too. But my baby brother is studying medicine abroad, and your brother joined ISIS." And she told her that she has tried basically everything she could, and she wanted to find him. And Mariam said, "So if you want to, we can help you looking for him." Yeah. And then we did, and we started looking into her own story and her brother's story, and also we made contact with lots of families of people who joined ISIS in Germany.
Were they open to share their stories with you?
Some of them were. It was at some points, like I think it's always like, for example, there was a dad, we also filmed with him, but then at the end decided to not put his story into the documentary. And his son, he already had some kind of proof that his son had died. Obviously, none of them ever received, they have no chance to get a funeral or see the corpse. So it's not, 100% sure, and there's always a little bit of hope within them. But he knew that he had died, and so it's very tragic. And he shared his story. We talked to his grandma as well, so it was really moving and disturbing. Yeah.
Sounds like it. Thank you. And who's next? Mary? Oh, Christina? Oh, I'm sorry. Christine.
Kirsten.
Kristen.
Yeah. Hi there.
Yes. Hello.
If I forget you, please let me know.
So I'm Kirsten D'Andrea Hollander, and I'm co-director, co-producer of Anatomy of Wings with Nakia Redmond. So we're both here on the Zoom.
Yes.
Representing Baltimore today.
Yes. Hello, I'm Nakia Redmond, as Kirsten said, co-producer and co-director of Anatomy of Wings.
Nice to meet you. And if you guys could just tell me a little bit about your documentary.
Sure. Do you want to go first, Nakia?
Sure. Our documentary is, it's a 12-year journey, going on, I think, 13 years or 14 something. It's a documentary about connection and what it means to be seen and heard. And it features 10 young women from Baltimore, and it follows their lives from middle school all the way into adulthood. And myself, I'm one of the mentors in the program, and Kirsten is like our leader. And it talks about what would it be like if we all took a second to bear witness to each other and be present in the moment as we're moving through our lives and becoming women.
And the film is really a call for a paradigm shift, because all 10 young women who appear in the film are also creators on the project. They had their own cameras. They were also recording their own stories along the way. And if you haven't lived in Baltimore, we're a city of really very, very different neighborhoods. And sometimes we even consider Baltimore to be two different cities, because it can still feel quite segregated, even in 2021. So what's remarkable about the 10 young women who appear in our film was their courage for what they shared during the film, as well as filming their own lives. And at the end of the day, what we discovered, because we first started as a video skills group for girls and then evolved into a women's collective. And what we discovered is that over a decade, we were exploring the conditions needed to make a space for empathetic witnessing, as Nikia is saying, to really see and hear each other, and what's possible when you come across different neighborhoods, race, age, class, what happens when everyone can sit in a space and just truly hear each other.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, I feel like I have a connection with every one of you here from either the Baltimore background, because that's where I was in my life, and did homicide life on the street for many years and did many Baltimore-based productions, and then had a child and have been out of it forever, when a writer-director who's of great note, came to me and said, I have been watching something in real time that I think would make a great story. I'm honored to be in the presence of the minds and the creative matter that is in this spot. So that's the first thing I want to say. Ireland, the Netherlands, France, Tel Aviv, I swear all of this is touched. We have a subject that's in Tel Aviv right now. It's amazing how, and we always call Baltimore Small-Timor. So we got that going on right now in droves. I was approached by Melissa Jo Peltier, who I knew through the Twitter sphere. And she was familiar with work I had done with a political action committee called Mad Dog PAC that placed billboards across the country after Trump was elected to try to take the House back. I had never done that. I got 56 billboards up in like 16 weeks, which apparently has never happened. I moved on from that space. And when Melissa contacted me, she was familiar with my past life as a producer, told me that she had been watching Congressman Joe Walsh, a Tea Party conservative, very outspoken, radio, loud, former congressman in the state of Illinois, have a real shift in his dichotomy of his vote for Trump, his change of heart. She said there has to be more people out there. I want a farmer. I want a veteran. I want evangelicals. I'd like a rancher. Maybe and then things just began to fall into the space of shooting Joe for the first time in New Hampshire in February of 2020. And then, as we all know, the world sort of stood still. And she came to me and said, now we've got the farmer lined up, and we've got like Boccia lined up, and we've got the teen Republican. She goes, we can't do anything. I said, yes, we can. So we shot the entire film remotely at 14 crews over the course of like 9, 10, 11 months, 5 volunteer editors that all pooled their media to one lead editor to get our premiere-based project into the hands of an online group that was just an extension of one of Melissa's corporates. It's a 2-hour documentary of each of these persons' change of mind as Republican conservatives that had voted for Trump and just could not do that in 2020. We then followed that up with post-election Zoom of everybody story. We have multiple experts that speak to the various areas of expertise, economy, politics, COVID. And then we had a camera guy on the ground on January 6th. So we actually ended up shooting an epilogue after the feature was created and confirmed. And Melissa was the writer-director. I was the line producer. It was pretty much funded by her. I managed to raise about 30 grand with small donors in the Political Action Committee. That's the umbrella under which we operate. And the film's been really well received. It's still a conversation of note. We're America. We have to talk about this. We also have to see where people were, where they are. It's made a huge difference to even just the subjects in our documentary who lost their livelihood. As you guys have mentioned, a lot of times you talk to people in a pre-interview and it's a sensitive subject and they might feel they're ready to go camera. And I had 15 or 20 go, I can't do it. I can't risk losing my family, my job, my church. And it's, we can't be afraid. Everybody has to be brave. Not only in this wheelhouse have we persisted, and every single one of your stories is saying that to me. She persisted. It's America persists. And, it's a republic democracy and a democratic republic. And we have to be able to have the conversation. And we feel like this is the vehicle to that bridge for that conversation. And so I thank you. I'm honored to be here. It's an amazing festival. I've got, my heart is East Coast. I'm heading to Egypt and Jordan in about 30 days for a bucket list item. And I just am honored to be here in your presence. And I'm thankful to be included in a selection of such esteemed filmmakers.
Oh, thank you.
And men who support them, which is we're all about that too, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I think Erica had to leave. She has to, I think, drop off her daughter or pick up her daughter from the airport. Mary, I wanted to ask you, was it difficult trying to get people on board? And what was the process that you went to try to get Joe Welsh?
Well, Melissa just reached out to him on Twitter. They followed each other and she DM'd him and said, I'm watching you feel differently. And I want to know if you would you would tell your story. And, Joe, if nothing else, is like a human megaphone, whether you want to hear from him or not. And in this instance, he was, as he says in the film, I'm out of the closet, baby. I'm liberated. And maybe I couldn't have talked to you in a civil way a few years ago because I was a jackass and you're not. And, he was the easy get. It was, I had volunteer researchers that were doing various things for us. I found the farmer. There was a common connection in New York to the teen Republican, Batya Goldberg, who's the daughter of Russian refuseniks. And she's currently at university in Tel Aviv. So there's the other, that was the next shoot we did, was Israel was open. So we hired a crew and shot remotely and brought the director right next to the lens and did the eye line match and dropped the mic in and COVID safed and 85'd and kept the distance. I did that with the farmer on 500 acres. I was like, outside, everybody outside. And then, I just did like Airbnbs, one camera guy, maybe a sound guy. And after we got off the interview, we gave a lot of creative license to these guys to go get the B-roll. And it's amazing what 14 DPs will give you. And we shot this all in 4K. I did a lot of the research. We had so many volunteers. Our budget was $150,000. For a 2-hour documentary, I have 110 hours in the can. And it wasn't about that at this point. It was just for some, and now we're just like, there's this great momentum. And it's been we're thrilled to be included in so many women film festivals and be honored in a number of them. And it's just, yes, it was difficult, but failure was not an option. I know people say that, but I really felt like compelled, and I'm glad we saw it to the end.
Oh, absolutely. And if you guys can tell us if you had any challenges during filming, please share with us and what you did to overcome the challenges, and if you learned anything as well. Anyone can jump in if you'd like to share with us.
I think our challenges were not just finding people that were willing to talk to us that weren't afraid, which was legit. But when this happened, it was like, no filmmaker back in February was going, how are we going to get this interview done safely without the director in the room? But then on the other side, it's like we saved travel. We saved per diems, hotels. We thought about getting in an RV and grabbing a DP. I'm like, we're still going to have to pay for all that stuff. Think about how we're not going to have to. And Melissa was very reticent. And when she started getting the footage in, she was like, holy crap. And then having 5 editors volunteering and all working, some in Avid, some in Premiere, and the ultimate predator is what I call the lead editor, because she's not really an editor, she's a predator. And she's now the co-producer, because it's like, there is no I in team, and there's like 3 of us left as the Mohicans here. So I'm doing press releases and social media stuff. And it's like, it's insane how many hats you wear, but I wouldn't change it. the level of learning was extraordinary for me. I hadn't done a film in 20 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, congratulations on that. Does anyone have anything to share with us regarding challenges that they faced? Lisa?
Yeah. So for us, it was difficult to, well, it wasn't sure if the terrorist, Oliver, was willing to talk to us in front of the camera, showing his face. And, well, an anonymous interview wasn't an option for us. So he had to make the difficult choice whether to show his face and be connected to a story publicly, basically forever, or just like try to put this chapter back and continue or start a new life. He also changed his surname, so he had this option. And for us, this was a very crucial moment, because we, like, if he wouldn't have agreed to do it, I think there wouldn't have been a documentary for us. And it's hard also because you have a huge responsibility as a filmmaker, you know, because it's like he's 23, so it's about his life and his future. So we try to not bias him in any way. It was his decision, and he had to like live with it, you know.
Well, that's difficult, and such a young age at that. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm glad you just popped back on, Nakia. One of the challenges that Nakia and I had with Anatomy of Wings was some of the feedback. We won't share names, but really prominent editors' feedback of how we should handle the story. And the feedback was coming in to kind of handle it in a way that would be easier for the audience to digest, and to also have a clean, positive ending. So in our story, we start as a young, group, a fledgling group. It's 2007. There's no video capability quite yet on cell phones, so it's a really big deal for our young ladies. And we kind of take that story, and thread it through their lives. We thought we would film till they graduated high school, and as they were graduating high school, and we saw how the systematic ways of Baltimore was not supporting them as young women, we decided to keep filming, and that's why we ultimately spent, as Nakia was saying, about 13 years. But where I'm going with this is we'd stuck with our own inner guidance, and we released a film showing the lives of the young women post-high school, to show what they were really, how they were navigating Baltimore as young women. I don't know if you want to add to that, Nakia.
I think I just want to add, well, actually, I feel like you said everything that we could possibly say about it.
You can go if you have anything to add.
I feel like the only thing that I really have to add is that we were really grateful to have the space to bear witness to what the girls were experiencing in their lives. And as a filmmaker, as a new filmmaker, I'm just learning that in the making of the story, holding that true to what the documentary actually became was something that I feel like I cherish now. And when I'm watching documentaries, I'm holding them to that standard. Like, you can feel in a documentary whether or not the story is true. It feels true. And I'm just grateful that we were able to make that happen.
Thank you. And Lucy, do you have anything to share about any challenges that you face?
Yeah. As everybody here knows, it's so difficult to make an independent feature documentary. And I think just in terms of the filming, I think that access to your characters, especially, we were following these things happening in Verite, and activists who were fighting for reproductive rights and fighting for this referendum. So while they were amazing and recognized that the film was important, it wasn't their priority, naturally enough. So, you had to sort of chase them and be, always constantly asking people what they were doing, where they are. And it's that line between being persistent but not being really annoying. So they were great and really patient. But I think building those relationships over a long period of time, really takes a lot of trust and patience and commitment on everybody's part. So I think we're all very happy with the finished product, which is great. And we're happy that there's this sort of document for this sort of period of time in Irish society.
Thank you. And Kristen, if you could tell us if you had any challenges, especially being as a first-time filmmaker.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was early on. I'm a retired TV journalist, so I spent 15 years telling other people's stories. And we had some early advice saying that it was time to tell our own story, to explain why it was time to quit journalism and find the next phase of my life. So I think it was having a blind confidence and maybe a little bit of selfishness to think that my story matters, to think that, okay, I can be the one in front of the camera and I can share my dirt and my journey and what I've learned from it. And people will care. And we posted a rough version of our movie on YouTube, and we've heard from hundreds of people saying that like little nuggets touch their hearts in various phases of their own lives. So it was just a big lesson of trusting advice, but also trusting that inner knower that when it comes time to change. So for us, it was pivoting our lives to do the journey in the first place, and then sharing our own dirt, which involved my father-in-law and things that you don't usually plan on making public. And then you just have to push the share button and know that that each of our respective journeys matter, and the lessons that all of our lives have taught us, that they have worth.
Thank you. Efrat?
There was a lot of difficulties.
Every step is a challenge. Was a challenge in this film, we all know.
I think to deal with women that they're
one of the main challenges was to get the access to the community, because when you think about it, you have to understand that this community is like one of the weakest communities in Israel, and they're very suspicious, especially for white persons like us that entered there with the camera. So to gain their trust was one of the biggest challenges.
The access, first of all, it was really complicated.
Shooting in two different countries.
Yes, shooting in Germany, to do the research in Germany while we are in Israel. We traveled Germany several times for research and to find the right person for the film. There was and also to direct and editing in foreign
languages
that we are not understand. So
large parts of the film were shot in Tigrinya, and my Tigrinya is like 50-50. But no, I don't speak Tigrinya at all. So we have to translate. We have like 5 languages in the film: Hebrew, English, German, Tigrinya, Somali, and Persian also.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yes, Yes.
And so it was like
it was
very,
funny.
I think, but in Israel, the complicated things in the editing stage was to find a Sumanic translator, because there are just 8 Sumanic people in Israel. So we found one of them was really nice and help us a lot with the translation.
But I just want to add that besides that, as you all said, I think that to see the reaction of the protagonists and characters that participated in the film, to see that they really accepted the film and they said, this is our story, was like our benefit from it, that we can tell the story, and it was real for them, which is, as we all know, documentaries.
Yes, the first screening was really emotional, and all of us cried when we watched it together, and it was really
a lot of tears.
It was the exciting moment in this journey, to understand that they feel like we really told their stories like they wanted.
Thank you for sharing that. Illy, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Please correct me.
Yeah, no, it is Illy. Yeah. Wow, I'm very inspired by all of these different projects. They just and some of I can't imagine how challenging some of them would have been, and all the ethical dilemmas that you face are I think that they're unique in every project, they're unique in every documentary, but they're always there, that kind of balance of telling a story and maintaining authenticity. And I think that is always fascinating and always a challenge. In the leadership, it was a really long process. So our journey, the expedition that we filmed was at the end of 2016. And actually I think on a day when we sort of did a lot of fundraising through an organization called Good Pitch, was the day that Trump was elected. And so we were sort of 3 weeks later on the ship, filming something about leadership, knowing there were these big questions. There were 76 women, all from different areas in STEM. And it was really the big challenge for me, was navigating from these big picture problems into personal stories, and then in the edit, out again. So it was really that kind of telescoping from kind of making sure that there was heart and soul, and then also being able to make a bigger comment about the world. And I often found that it was a lot. But I had an amazing team, really wonderful producer, Greer Simkin, amazing co-producer Lauren Mather, and our editor Lindsay Harrison was also we were in the trenches together for a long time. It was a long edit because there was a lot to sort through. So but it was a big journey. Yeah, a big learning journey for me.
Thank you. And do you guys have any takeaways that you would like to share with the audience?
Don't give up, no matter what. And
that's a good
follow others. And you can't help but widen your lens in the world, because tomorrow is not a promise, it's a gift. So get her done. That's mine.
That's a good one. Who'd like to go next? Anyone?
I feel like stay true to your story is something that has rung for me, making this film and also watching amazing films, is just staying true to what you feel like your story is, and not allowing anyone else's opinions to sway you, but also taking advice, but just knowing that the essence of your story is important.
Thank you. Next.
The saying leap and the net will appear comes to mind, and it sounds like it's something that every single one of you has done. Projects that to me seem like impossible accomplishments, and you all have done it. So it's reminding yourself that when that next project comes along, even if it sounds completely wild or people around you say, oh, that's a horrible idea, if you know it to be truth, leap and that net will appear.
Thank you for sharing that. Who wants to go next?
I think for me, the thing that is I have found the most valuable is actually having really great collaborators, and being able to know that no one person knows everything. So being able to kind of ask for help and having people that you kind of lean on when you're actually having trouble making decisions, or when you're really weighing up a problem and you're not quite sure how to approach it. I just think surrounding yourself with people like both colleagues, but also just obviously in life, who can really you can trust, just can help break down those kind of problems and help you get through them, because there will always be challenges in the filmmaking process, and particularly if it's a documentary that hasn't been done before, it's always new. Like, it's always a new framework for every project. So having people who can help you navigate that with is, it also just makes it a lot more fun as well, I have to say.
Thank you. Who would like to go next, if you'd like to share?
I think I would just second that, that I think that is, the key sort of bedrock for making a film is finding the right collaborators. And I think it was 3 women who we made the film together, and we all complement each other very well. And it was over a long period of time, and we're all still very good friends, which is kind of remarkable. So I think I feel and everybody, even all of the creative people involved, I just think choose your collaborators very, very carefully and trust your instincts.
Good advice. Who'd like to go next?
I want to get on the collaboration train here. Knowing Nakia and the young women in Anatomy of Wings has really taught me you listen to your heart, you spend time with the people you know and love, and there's a time, within these beautiful community that we had where you listen deeply. There's a time to listen deeply, and then there's a time to get the job done.
Thank you. Alfred and Jill?
Wow, so many things along the way, but few things. First of all, we met a lot of good people along the way that, as you said, helped us, and there is goodness in each one of us. I think one of the basic struggles in humanity, all of us, is between bad and good. So let's stick to the good part. That's one thing. And the other thing, as a man participating in a very feminine project, following 2 women, my wife, and we had other collaborators.
And co-producer.
Yeah, but I want to say that I want to quote our protagonist, Fatuma, which he says, under our skin, we're all the same. And I think this is one of the things we tried to do in this film, to show that we're all the same. One of the, gives me the, us and them all the time, but it's us. And we can see it now, in the COVID-19, it happens all over the world. It started in China, if you believe that, but it started there, and we see the influences all over the world. So we're all the same, we're all together, and that's good. Yes. Although the differences, of course, we're different, but that's good.
So true, so true. And Lisa?
I think you just have to fight for your story. And if you believe in it, I think you should trust that and keep on pushing, because as we all know, it's not easy to make a documentary. So you have to go the whole way.
Thank you guys for sharing these stories. Any projects you're currently working on, and if you could share your social media handles or website where people can find you, and possibly you guys could connect with each other. Who'd like to go first?
I can go first for Anatomy of Wings. Again, I'm Nakia from Anatomy of Wings, the documentary. We're at www.anatomyofwings.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Anatomy of Wings doc. Yeah.
Thank you. Afrat and Jill?
Okay, you can find us on Facebook, Film An Ordinary Life. And currently, we're working on a few new projects we're developing.
Actually, I'm working on I'm directing a new television series, a historical for the Israeli broadcaster in Israel. It's about women in politics in Israel, about feminine leadership in Israel. And it's very important project that I feel happy to direct these days. And Gilly?
And we're on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. We would be happy to connect and to see. The project sounds amazing, what you described here. And as I said, we're developing a few other projects. I'm also a poet. I'm working on a new book, which you can see online. It's in Hebrew. It would be amazing for you.
Congratulations.
No, but it would be really interesting to meet you all on Facebook and to connect there.
Nice. Mary?
I just hope you can send the chat out after this, because we're all like exchanging all these fabulous pieces of information, and I'm about 100 years old, so it's multitasking is fine in certain capacities, but I also don't want to be too rude, but I hope you're able to do that. And we're at www American Dignity PAC, because we are started as a political action committee.com. You won't see the film anywhere right now because our goal is to festival and sell, and and get the message out. I don't think anybody else is in a different space except for to want those things. And I've been a gypsy for 1.5 years. I leave here, I go back north, I go to Egypt. Who like, what are you doing when you get back? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't worked in the business for a long time, and it would be marvelous if somebody felt like they wanted a line producer. I could only dream of a second project. I know Melissa has more ideas than socks. So the writers are always writing, and my goal is to always bring somebody else's creative vision to the table. That's what makes me tick. And so I hope that there's another film, and I hope that all of your films get where they need to go, which is out.
Excellent. Kristen?
Yeah, I can be found at Kristen Dickerson TV. Our first in-person documentary premiere happens at the end of this month, which we are very excited about. And while we were shooting the documentary, a book was also written, which is basically my testimony. It's called My Journey Back to God, and it's been written and edited, and we're about to publish it on Amazon. So again, it was such a pleasure learning from all of you today, and thank you for inspiring me to keep going. So thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you. And Eli? I think her sound is...
Yeah. You can find the film at www.theleadership.org. And on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And we have an impact campaign that's running alongside the film, which involves going into schools, a whole lot of educational resources and other workplace resources as well. You can find out that's running this year and next year, and you can find out more about that on the website as well.
Thank you. Lucy?
So the website is the8thfilm.com, and on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at The 8th Film. And I continue to produce and direct, and I'm working on a few things at the moment. but I've signed an NDA, so I'm not going to talk any more about it.
You gotta do that a lot more often than people realize, no question about it.
And Kristen?
I just want to say I'm really grateful for this Zoom opportunity to meet everyone today. I've learned a lot. To echo Nakia, our piece can be found at anatomyofwings.com. And in addition to our film, we're really trying to build a shared curriculum and do some workshops. One of our young women just wrote her first script. So we have a lot of exciting things happening at the website.
Oh, nice. And let's see, I'm not sure if Lisa's still here with us. I think she left. Yes, I think we got everyone, right? Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, sharing your story, the process. Keep doing what you're doing. We look forward to seeing more work from you all. Once again, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Take care as well.
Thank you, ladies, and have a wonderful rest of the